The moment that changed everything happened on a Wednesday morning in October when my courtroom doors opened and in walked someone who carried the weight of the world's richest family name, but also the pain of public rejection. Vivian Wilson, 21 years old, formerly known as Xavier Musk, transgender daughter of Elon Musk, the world's wealthiest person worth over $230 billion. She stood there in designer clothes that screamed money, a Balenciaga jacket worth $3,500, Gucci sneakers, a Prada bag, and jewelry that probably cost more than most people's annual salary. Behind her came an army, 5 attorneys from Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, one of Silicon Valley's most powerful law firms, 2 PR consultants, and 3 assistants carrying MacBooks and iPads like they were preparing for war, not a court hearing. But sitting in the gallery, looking terrified and out of place, was someone who had no power, no billion-dollar lawyers, no famous last name. Marcus Thompson, 54 years old, veteran security guard at the Tesla Gigafactory in Austin, Texas. Father of 3, 22 years of service protecting the very buildings that made Elon Musk his fortune. His face showed healing cuts and a black eye from where Vivian had attacked him 3 weeks ago. His uniform was clean but worn, the patches on his shoulders faded from years of use. And his eyes held the kind of fear that comes from being assaulted by the boss's child and then being told that speaking up would cost him everything. The charges were aggravated assault, destruction of property, and criminal threatening. According to the police report and security footage from the Tesla facility, Vivian had arrived at the factory entrance demanding immediate access to her father's building even though she'd been explicitly banned from all Tesla properties after previous incidents. When Marcus, doing his job, asked her to leave, she'd exploded. She'd screamed that her father owned everything, including Marcus's job. When he calmly explained he was following company policy, she grabbed his security tablet, worth $1,200, and smashed it on the ground. When he reached for his radio to call for backup, she'd attacked him, scratching his face, punching him in the chest, and screaming words that Tesla's HR department later described as threatening and abusive. Security cameras captured everything. Police arrested Vivian at the scene. And now she stood in my courtroom, a 21-year-old who'd spent her teenage years as the child of the world's richest man, who'd publicly changed her name and gender to distance herself from her father, who had 890,000 Twitter followers and was treated like a hero by many in the LGBTQ community for standing up to Elon Musk's increasingly anti-trans statements. She clearly believed that her story of being rejected by a billionaire father, combined with her identity as a trans woman, would protect her from consequences. What I did in the next 28 minutes didn't just shock the courtroom. It sparked a national debate about whether being a victim in one part of your life gives you permission to victimize others, whether social justice credentials exempt anyone from criminal accountability, and proved that in America, when the system works correctly, no amount of wealth, no amount of oppression points, no amount of Twitter followers places anyone above the law. If you believe that family trauma doesn't excuse violence, that trans rights don't include the right to assault working people, that judges must defend the law even when facing someone the media portrays as a victim, hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to do will show you that justice doesn't care about your backstory, only your actions. Ms. Wilson, I began, and I could feel the tension in the room. Everyone knew what was at stake. You're charged with aggravated assault against Marcus Thompson, criminal destruction of property, and criminal threatening. Before we proceed with your plea, I want to address the extraordinary legal presence in my courtroom. 5 attorneys for a simple assault case. Explain. Her lead attorney stood, Sandra Morrison, one of Silicon Valley's most expensive lawyers, whose firm had represented everyone from Steve Jobs to Mark Zuckerberg. Your Honor, my client is not just facing criminal charges. She's facing the weight of being Elon Musk's estranged transgender daughter. This case has attracted international media attention. My client has received death threats from her father's supporters. She requires comprehensive legal protection because this isn't just a criminal matter, it's a cultural flashpoint. Ms. Morrison, your client punched a security guard. That's the matter before this court. Not culture wars. Not Twitter debates. Not her relationship with her father. She assaulted a working man doing his job. That's why we're here. Your Honor, with respect, context matters. My client has been publicly rejected by one of the most powerful men in the world. Elon Musk has repeatedly named her on social media. He's called transgender identity a quote social contagion. He's used his daughter's transition as evidence for his anti-trans political positions. My client suffers from severe PTSD, anxiety, and depression directly caused by parental abuse. The incident at Tesla was a mental health crisis triggered by being confronted at her father's property, a place symbolizing everything that's rejected her. I set down my pen carefully. Counselor, I've read the psychiatric evaluation your team submitted. I'm aware of your client's mental health struggles. I'm sympathetic to the pain of family rejection, especially for transgender individuals. But your client drove to a Tesla facility she was banned from, demanded entry, and when a security guard politely refused, she assaulted him. Mental health struggles don't give anyone a free pass to commit violence. Your Honor, we're prepared to argue that this was a reaction to institutional transphobia. Tesla, under Elon Musk's leadership, has faced multiple lawsuits for hostile work environments for LGBTQ employees. My client was triggered by being confronted by a representative of her father's transphobic corporate empire. Ms. Morrison, did Marcus Thompson say anything transphobic to your client? The attorney hesitated. We believe the security guard's entire demeanor was coded transphobia, Your Honor. That's not an answer. Did he misgender your client? Did he use her dead name? Did he make any transphobic statements? Yes or no? Not explicitly, but, so no. Ms. Wilson, how do you plead? Vivian stood. Her voice carried the carefully practiced tone of someone who'd given many interviews about her story. Not guilty, Your Honor. I was having a panic attack. I have PTSD from years of emotional abuse from my father. I went to that facility because I needed to confront the physical symbol of everything that's hurt me. That security guard treated me like I was nothing. Like I didn't matter. Like my father's money was more important than my humanity. I reacted to systemic oppression. Ms. Wilson, you're 21 years old. You drove to a private facility where you were banned. You demanded entry. When denied, you destroyed property and assaulted a man. Those are facts. How do you explain attacking a 54-year-old security guard? Your Honor, he represents everything wrong with the system. He works for my father's company. He enforces my father's rules. He probably thinks my father is right about trans people. He probably reads Elon's tweets and laughs about me. I was defending myself against institutional violence. Ms. Wilson, you just admitted you assumed things about Mr. Thompson based on who he works for, then used that assumption to justify assaulting him. Do you understand that's not self-defense? Her attorney was whispering urgently, but Vivian waved her off. Your Honor, when you're trans, especially when you're rejected by someone as powerful as Elon Musk, everything is an attack. People don't understand what it's like to be dead named on Twitter to 170 million followers. To have your own father call your identity a delusion. To know that half the country agrees with him. That security guard is part of that system. Ms. Park, I said, turning to the prosecutor, please present the evidence. Rebecca Park approached with a tablet. Your Honor, we have complete security footage from the Tesla Gigafactory. 4 camera angles with audio. May I play it? I nodded. The lights dimmed. The first camera showed the facility entrance. Vivian's Mercedes G-Wagon, matte black, worth over $200,000, pulled up aggressively to the security gate. Marcus Thompson stepped out of the guard booth, professional posture, clipboard in hand. The audio was crystal clear. Marcus spoke politely, asking for ID and appointment confirmation. Vivian immediately became hostile, stating she didn't need appointments at her father's factory. Marcus calmly explained she was on the prohibited visitors list, company policy, nothing personal. He called her Ms. Wilson. Used correct pronouns. His tone was respectful and professional throughout. Vivian's voice got louder. She accused him of discrimination. Marcus remained calm, repeating that he was following company policy that had nothing to do with her identity. He explained that all of Elon Musk's children required executive authorization for facility access due to security protocols. That's when Vivian exited her vehicle. The second camera angle showed her approaching Marcus's booth. He stepped back, maintaining professional distance. Vivian was yelling now, pointing at him, her face flushed with anger. She said her father owned everything, including Marcus's pathetic minimum wage job. She said one call from her lawyers could destroy him. Marcus reached for his radio. That's when Vivian grabbed his security tablet off the booth desk and threw it to the ground. The expensive device shattered on the concrete. Marcus's face showed shock, but he remained professional, backing toward his booth while speaking into his radio for backup. Vivian followed him. The third camera angle caught what happened next. She lunged at Marcus, her nails scratching down his face, leaving visible red marks. He raised his arms defensively, trying to protect himself without touching her. She punched him in the chest, once, twice. He stumbled backward. The audio picked up her words clearly. "You're just like him. You worship him. You probably hate me just like he does. I hope you lose everything. I hope your family suffers like mine has. You're nothing. You're a peasant working for a king who thinks people like you are disposable." Marcus didn't fight back. He kept his hands up, defensive, trying to create distance. Other security personnel arrived within seconds. Vivian was still screaming when Austin police showed up 6 minutes later. The fourth camera showed the arrest. Vivian refused to cooperate initially, shouting about discrimination and police brutality. When officers asked for her ID, she said, "Do you know who I am? I'm Elon Musk's daughter. Well, former daughter. He disowned me because I'm trans. This entire system is designed to protect people like him and hurt people like me." When the lights came back on, the courtroom was completely silent. I looked at Vivian, whose jaw was set in defiance, no shame, no remorse visible on her face. "Ms. Wilson," I said slowly, "you just watched yourself assault a security guard who was polite, professional, and used your correct name and pronouns throughout the entire interaction. You destroyed his equipment, you scratched his face, you punched him, and you threatened his family. Do you still maintain you were acting in self-defense against transphobia?" Sandra Morrison stood immediately. "Your Honor, my client was experiencing a PTSD episode. She wasn't in control of her actions. The psychiatric evaluation clearly shows." "Counselor, I've read the evaluation. It says your client has trauma. It doesn't say she has diminished capacity. She drove herself to that facility. She made conscious decisions. She spoke coherently about her father's wealth and power while assaulting a man. This wasn't a psychotic break. This was entitlement turned violent. Your Honor, we're prepared to file a motion to dismiss based on selective prosecution. My client is being charged because she's Elon Musk's daughter. If she were anyone else, this would be handled as a mental health intervention, not a criminal case. Your client assaulted a man at his workplace, Ms. Morrison. That's criminal regardless of who your client's father is. In fact, let's talk about that. Your entire defense rests on your client being a victim of Elon Musk. But she used that same name, that same connection, to threaten Mr. Thompson. She told him her lawyers could destroy him. She invoked her father's wealth as a weapon. You can't claim victim status while simultaneously wielding privilege as a threat. The courtroom stirred. I could see reporters in the gallery typing frantically on their phones. "Mr. Thompson, please approach." Marcus Thompson stood slowly and walked forward. Up close, I could see the scratches on his face were still healing, 3 parallel lines down his left cheek. His eye was still slightly discolored. He looked nervous, the way working people do when they're forced to confront those with money and power. "Mr. Thompson, tell me what happened that day." He spoke quietly, with the careful diction of someone who knows every word might be used against him. "Your Honor, I've been a security guard at Tesla for 22 years. I've worked for Mr. Musk's companies since he was just starting out. I've watched his kids grow up from security camera footage over the years. I knew Ms. Wilson when she was younger, before her transition. I've always respected her. That day, she arrived without authorization. I checked my list, she wasn't on it. I checked the prohibited visitors roster, she was there. I did my job. I called her Ms. Wilson. I used the pronouns she asked for. I was polite. I explained it was just policy, nothing personal." He paused, his voice cracking slightly. "Your Honor, I'm not a transphobic person. I have a nephew who's transgender. I marched in Pride with him last year. I voted for politicians who support LGBTQ rights. I've never, not once, treated Ms. Wilson with anything but respect. When she attacked me, I didn't fight back. I'm 54 years old. She's a 21-year-old. I just tried to protect myself. I called for help. I didn't want to hurt her, even though she was hurting me." Tears filled his eyes. "After the arrest, I started getting messages. People online found my name in the police report. They said I was a bigot. That I assaulted a trans woman. That I worked for Elon Musk, so I must hate trans people. I got death threats. Someone posted my home address. My wife had to take our daughter out of school for a week because people were protesting outside. I'm just a security guard, Your Honor. I make $52,000 a year. I have 3 kids, 2 in college, 1 in high school. I work overtime to pay bills. I didn't ask for any of this. I just did my job. And now half the internet thinks I'm a monster because I wouldn't let a billionaire's kid break the rules. He looked directly at Vivian. Ms. Wilson, I'm sorry your father hurt you. I've read about it. I can't imagine what it's like to be rejected by your parent, especially someone as public as Mr. Musk. I genuinely hope you find peace and happiness. But I didn't deserve what you did to me. My family didn't deserve those threats. I'm a person too. The courtroom was absolutely silent. Several people in the gallery were crying. I looked at Vivian Wilson, who was staring at her phone, scrolling through something, barely paying attention to Marcus's testimony. Ms. Wilson, put the phone away. She looked up, annoyed, and slowly pocketed it. Ms. Wilson, you heard Mr. Thompson's testimony. He's a working father who treated you with respect and did his job. You assaulted him and turned him into a target for online harassment. What do you have to say? Sandra Morrison stood. Your Honor, my client declines to make a statement at this time. Of course she does. Ms. Park, you mentioned Mr. Thompson received harassment after the incident. Do you have evidence linking it to Ms. Wilson? Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Wilson posted about the incident on her Twitter account the day after her arrest. She has 890,000 followers. Rebecca Park pulled up a phone screen on the courtroom display. There was Vivian's tweet, posted 24 hours after the assault. Just got arrested for defending myself against one of my father's transphobic employees. Tesla security assaulted me when I tried to visit what should be my property too. The guard was violent and hateful. This is what trans people face every day, even from people who pretend to be progressive. The tweet had 47,000 retweets, 156,000 likes, and thousands of comments. Rebecca scrolled through them. Most were supportive of Vivian, attacking Marcus by name, even though Vivian hadn't mentioned his name in the tweet. People had found it from the police report. Comments included, "That guard deserves to lose his job. Tesla security attacked a trans woman. Fire this transphobic pig. Someone find his address. Make him pay for assaulting a vulnerable young woman." Ms. Wilson, I said, my voice cold, you posted a false narrative on social media knowing you have nearly 1 million followers. You claimed Mr. Thompson assaulted you. You claimed he was transphobic. Neither thing is true according to the video evidence. You weaponized your platform to destroy a working man's reputation. Sandra Morrison stood quickly. Your Honor, my client has First Amendment rights. She was expressing her lived experience of the incident. Counselor, lying on social media isn't protected speech when it's defamatory. Your client falsely accused Mr. Thompson of assault and bigotry, leading to death threats against his family. Your Honor, my client's perception of events is valid even if the video shows something different. Trauma affects memory. Trans people are hypervigilant to microaggressions that others might miss. Ms. Morrison, the video is clear. Your client was the aggressor. Mr. Thompson was the victim. No amount of trauma justifies lying to 890,000 people to make yourself look like the victim. I turned to Vivian Wilson. Ms. Wilson, stand up. She stood slowly, tall and defiant, looking at me with barely concealed contempt. Ms. Wilson, you're 21 years old. You're legally an adult. You drove to a private facility where you were prohibited. You assaulted a security guard who treated you with respect. You destroyed his equipment. You threatened his family. Then you lied on social media to make him look like the villain. Here is my finding. You are guilty of aggravated assault. The video evidence is irrefutable. You physically attacked Marcus Thompson without provocation. You are guilty of criminal destruction of property. You are guilty of criminal threatening. You explicitly threatened Mr. Thompson using your access to wealth and lawyers. Vivian's face flushed red. Your Honor, this is persecution. You're targeting me because I'm trans. Because I stood up to Elon Musk. This is exactly what happens to trans people who don't stay silent. Ms. Wilson, I'm holding you accountable because you committed multiple crimes and showed zero remorse. Your identity is irrelevant. Your father's opinions are irrelevant. You broke the law. Here is your sentence. For aggravated assault, 180 days in county jail. For criminal destruction of property, 90 days to be served consecutively. For criminal threatening, an additional 90 days. Total of 360 days, 1 full year in custody. The courtroom erupted. Vivian's attorneys were on their feet shouting. Her PR consultants were already on their phones. Vivian herself looked genuinely shocked, like she'd never once considered this outcome possible. "Your Honor," Sandra Morrison shouted over the chaos, "1 year in jail for a 21-year-old with severe mental health issues? This is outrageous. This is cruel and unusual punishment. We will appeal immediately. Counselor, your client is an adult who violently attacked a working person, then used her massive social media platform to paint herself as the victim. 1 year is appropriate for someone who needs to learn that trauma doesn't excuse violence, that oppression doesn't grant permission to oppress others, that being rejected by a billionaire doesn't make you special enough to be above the law. Additionally, I'm ordering Ms. Wilson to pay full restitution to Mr. Thompson. Medical expenses for his injuries. Replacement cost for the destroyed security tablet. Compensation for emotional distress and damage to his reputation. Total of $45,000. And I'm issuing a protective order prohibiting Ms. Wilson from contacting Mr. Thompson, going within 500 feet of any Tesla facility, or posting about Mr. Thompson on social media." Vivian was shaking with rage. "You can't do this. I have followers. I have a platform. People will hear about this. You're oppressing a trans woman. The ACLU will destroy you. Ms. Wilson, threaten me again and I'll add contempt of court to your sentence. Bailiff, take her into custody." Officers approached. Vivian pulled away initially, shouting about her rights, about transphobia, about how this proved the system was broken. Her attorneys were still arguing, filing emergency motions on their phones. The PR team was already crafting statements. As officers led her away in handcuffs, she was shouting, "This is exactly what Elon wanted. You're all working for him. The system protects billionaires and punishes trans people. Everyone will know what you did here. I'll make sure the world knows you're a transphobe." "Ms. Wilson," I called after her, "I'm not a transphobe. I'm a judge who believes everyone, including transgender people, are capable of being accountable for their actions. That's equality." Bailiff, proceed. Within an hour, it was international news. Vivian's supporters were calling me every name imaginable. Transphobe, bigot, Musk loyalist, tool of the patriarchy. The hashtag Justice for Vivian trended worldwide. LGBTQ advocacy groups issued statements condemning the sentence as disproportionate. But something else happened too. Working people, including many from the LGBTQ community, started speaking up. Trans security guards, trans service workers, trans people who'd been assaulted and had their attackers face no consequences. They said what I'd done was right. That trans rights don't include the right to violence. That being a minority doesn't mean you can't also be a perpetrator. 6 weeks later, the Texas Court of Appeals upheld my sentence unanimously. Their opinion stated, identity-based trauma, while deserving of compassion and support, does not exempt anyone from criminal accountability. Judge Caprio's sentence was proportionate to the defendant's actions and her demonstrated lack of remorse. Being transgender is not a license to commit assault. Vivian Wilson served 10 months before being released early for good behavior. Marcus Thompson received his restitution and continued working at Tesla, where the company implemented new protocols for protecting security staff from harassment. He gave one interview, saying simply, "I hope Ms. Wilson gets the help she needs. But justice was important. My family is safe now. That matters." If this story moved you, subscribe. Share it with anyone who needs to understand that oppression doesn't grant immunity from being an oppressor. That trauma explains behavior but doesn't excuse it. That trans rights, like all rights, come with responsibilities. Vivian Wilson used her father's billions and her platform in my courtroom. I gave her a year in jail and proved that in America, no one, not even the estranged transgender daughter of the world's richest man, is above the law.